remembers when I was a young girl. The thrill he got just playing my curls. I said, baby, it was your touch I miss so much. When you kiss my lips, baby, show me how to move my hips, yeah. First to make my backbone slip. Hard drive. Really got just playing my girls. Ooh, I said, baby, it was your touch I miss so much. When you kiss my lips, baby, show me how to move my hips, yeah. First to make my backbone slip. Make my dream come true tonight.
People say, yo, Humpty, you're really funny looking. That's alright, cause I get things cooking. You stare, you glare, you constantly try to compare me, but you can't get near me. I'm giving more C, and on the floor B, all the girls, they adore me. Oh yes, ladies, I'm really being sincere, cause in the 69, my Humpty nose will tickle your rear. My nose is big. I'm not ashamed, big like a pickle. I'm still getting paid. I get laid by the ladies, you know I'm in charge. Both how I'm living and my nose is large. I get stupid, I shoot an arrow like Cupid. I use a word that don't mean nothing, like Luke did. I sang on Do What You Like, and if you missed it, I'm the one who said just grab them in the biscuits. Also told you that I like to bite. Well yeah, I guess it's obvious I also like to write. All you had to do was give Humpty a chance, and now I'm gonna do my dance.
The Humpty dance is your chance to do the hump.
Come on. Yeah, sexy lady.
Do the Humpty
Come
hump.
on, I'll do the Humpty hump. Sexy baby. Everybody, come on and do the Humpty hump. I'll do you know what we're doing the Humpty hump, y'all. I'll do the Humpty hump. Watch me do the Humpty hump. That's the break, y'all. Let alone that bass groove right here. Yeah. Now that I told y'all a little bit about myself, let me tell you a little bit about this dance. It's real easy to do. Check it out. First I limped to the side like my legs was broken, shaking and twitching, kinda like I was smoking. Crazy, whack, funky. People say you look like MC Hammer on crack, Humpty. That's alright, cause my body's in motion. It's supposed to look like a fit or a convulsion. Anyone can play this game. This is my dance, y'all. Humpty Hump's my name. No two people will do it the same. You got it down when you appear to be in pain. Humping, funkin', jumping, dig around, shaking your rump. And when a doodle chump punk points a finger like a stunt, tell him step off, I'm doing the hump.
The Humpty dance, here's your chance to do the hump.
Everybody,
I do the Humpty hump.
come on,
I do the Humpty hump.
sexy lady.
I do the Humpty hump.
I'm doing the Humpty hump. When
I do the Humpty hump.
y'all, watch me
Do the Humpty hump. I do the Humpty
check it
hump.
out, black people.
I do the Humpty hump. I do the Humpty hump.
Come on, white people.
I do the Humpty hump. I do the Humpty hump.
Puerto Ricans.
I do the Humpty hump.
Just keep on doing the hump. Samoans.
I do the Humpty hump. Do the Humpty hump.
Yeah. Let's get stupid. I do the Humpty hump. I do the Humpty hump. Everybody do the Humpty hump. Do the Humpty hump. Give me the music. I'm on to do the Humpty hump. Put it on with doing the Humpty hump.
WODU, the heartbeat of Old Dominion. Good morning. You're welcome back to the Dreammaker Show on WODU, the heartbeat of Old Dominion. And I want to take time to say on the air, good morning to Melovee.
Yes, good morning, good morning. I was going to say good morning, Vietnam.
Yeah,
but
good morning, let me make sure.
Well,
Oh, there you go. I keep forgetting it, you know.
You gotta turn
Every
it on.
mic is, gotta turn you on. People might say, he don't want her to talk.
But it's a good morning.
You know,
this
'cause I don't want no trouble, because you know, men getting in trouble these days.
Well,
Let me put the camera on my hands. But they got the camera way over there.
you all good here.
I
It's
got,
all good
yeah,
here.
I don't want no trouble. I don't want nobody saying nothing. I keep the camera on me,
But
keep
we
it
thank,
recorded.
We thank God for this morning.
No doubt.
This wonderful Thursday morning. It's a bright, sunny day, so we're looking forward to playing good music
No question.
and keep
no
the
question.
soul lifted, because we
Keep it-
need some music to keep us going and grooving and moving today.
Yeah. You gotta you gotta have that positive music. I
Yes,
mean, I
you
don't
have
care if
to.
it's gospel or R&B, country.
Yeah.
It's got to be positive.
That's right.
So when you get out there trying to face the enemy, you can pull back there in the bag, and you know like, well, I wonder how I'm gonna get him now. You can pull something out of the bag on me. You know.
Well, you get your dance on, you get your groove on.
Yeah,
you
you
so
get-
you got to shake it off. Shake
Yeah.
it off. You know?
You definitely gotta keep dancing and keep believing and keep
joy.
having.
Keep joy, because we need joy and peace.
That's how we get our joy, because
right.
we dance.
That's right.
We keep it.
Soulful people.
Right.
Right.
You know, how you see somebody dancing to all the negativity? I mean, right now, sometimes I start turning off the news now.
You know what, you have to, because
Yeah.
there's just so much going on now that it just pulls from your spirit.
Yeah.
It just brings you down. So, but we need this music.
No question. No
Yes.
question.
Keep it moving and grooving.
That's what we're going to do today. We're going to keep it rocking and rolling. You just heard the latest, the greatest. I'm talking about the rocker himself, Prince. Talking about sexy dancer from back in the day. Coming up next, I don't know who I might play. You know, I'm looking now to see who is it. I got somebody coming up. Oh, I got Ron TV.
All right.
You know, from
Local
next week.
artist.
Yeah, local.
Yeah.
But internationally known. He just opened up for two major at the car show that was at the Chrysler.
That's right. He did.
And he opened
But
up.
you know
for,
what? He's on
yeah.
his grind. He makes
Yeah,
sure he's
yeah.
out there.
He's
Always moving and pushing stuff. You know, he's always doing.
If you want to get it,
we got to go out there and get it.
he call him. He bring it to you. You know, he be working.
I hear this personality on the TV say, "Go get it, get it, get it, get it."
Yeah.
Get it.
That's what he does. Coming up next, that's what it's all about. It's right here from Ron TV on the hottest station on the planet, WODU. It's the Dreammaker Show. This is what we do. This is what we
Look, man,
do.
why you ain't picking up the phone?
On WODU, it's the heartbeat of Old Dominion.
You seen the message said seen.
Yeah, take my phone when I was like,
Really? That's where we're at right now? It might have been the Hennessy. Babe, you making up all this energy. You acting like you ain't hearing me. Don't even know who this is, show me identity. We've had some long walks. Yeah, we've had some long talks. That's why it's hard to watch. Lately it feel like we keep on falling off. Look, I don't know what your past did to you. Whatever trust that you had, you put it into it. What's the influence? You shattered and ruined. Been picking and choosing. The tension is brewing. Who winning, who losing? I think I might lose it. Trying to figure you out like in a Rubik's Cube. She ice cold. Yeah, relationship goals. Get money with bae. Maybe take a vacay in a suite and relax. We might never come back. Just be counting our stacks. Fall asleep on some racks. Sipping Henny and Jack. Know you like the sound of that. Yeah, and it's making me sad. You should never go to bed, man. I'm missing your laugh. You should never go to bed, man. I'm missing your laugh. I ain't trying to go to bed, man. Look. We can't fold under pressure. Take your suitcase and put them clothes back in the dresser. Got me playing detective. You so overprotective. Just say what's wrong. Just give me perspective. Everything we've been through. We riding this like we on cruise. You know we sneakerheads. We can escape to the mall and just collect shoes. Put your phone away. DJ Khaled said stay away from they. Yeah, stay away from they. Just keep it between us and stay away from they. What's ours is our business. We started, we finish it. Not saying I'm innocent, just rather be intimate. I'm gaining experience, maintaining the faith in us. It's crazy, the craziness. Look, you my day one. Ain't seen that pretty face all day long. And baby, we too strong. And I don't know what went wrong. If it's a test, then we gotta pass. We got that good thing that's gotta last. I don't wanna go to bed mad, yeah. I ain't tryna go to bed mad, yeah. I don't wanna go to bed mad. I don't wanna go to bed mad. You should never go to bed mad. I don't wanna go to bed mad. You should never go to bed mad, girl. You should never go to bed mad. I ain't tryna go to bed mad. No, I don't wanna go to bed mad. What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? Girl, what are we doing? Doing. What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing, girl? What are we doing? Doing. What are we doing? Yeah. What are we doing? What are we doing?
As different as people might think these different musics are, there's really a commonality, and it's all the same, and it all comes from the same place. I did a gig in Morocco, right? And we played a festival celebrating Ganawa music, and the primary instrument is an instrument that's like a box and a neck, a wooden neck, 3 strings, and the guys play it like this. They play it just like we play funk bass, right? And it made me realize this is the ancestor to the instrument that I play, you know?
WODU, the heartbeat of Old Dominion. That's the sounds of Marcus Miller. Just want to give you a touch of jazz. Give you a chance, let your mind relax, get from all that stress, all that pressure that might be around your heart. Kind of get you in the mood, because we got to talk a little politics at 12. The best of the 757. Melovee, who is our guest today?
Yes, we have former Virginia Beach Deputy Chief John Bell coming in studios to talk about his life career as a former Virginia Beach Deputy Chief, and also his candidacy for Virginia Beach Sheriff. So we're looking forward to him coming into the studio and talk to us about all that he's into right now. So
I want you to press that share button and let people be aware, so they can really get up and close a whole solid hour with the candidate, so they can make their choices, because the commercials on television are misleading. I'm telling you, they are misleading, because that's what they do. But if you can find it in your heart to take a few moments and share this with your friends, your family, and let people be aware of Candidate Bell being on the best of the 757 community talk show. I always multitask when I'm doing things, sending out, pushing, buttons. And, I get tongue twisted in a minute just to get our people so they can make their choices coming up on Tuesday, right?
Right, and he's a public servant, so it's not just about him being a candidate, but his lifelong career in law enforcement, and that's what we need to hear. We need to hear what's going on, what his perspective is on what's going on around the country. So he's a former New York police officer, transfer police officer, so he could talk to us about what's going on and how would they handle these things here. Because
right.
We don't ever know when we might be hit with something like that took place in New York. So
yeah, because they had a bomb scared over there last night over at the base.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, so you never know.
That's why we need music to keep us motivated.
Keep you motivated and keep you occupied with all the. There's just so much negativity everywhere. I try not to talk about things, when they get to the negative side, because you just gotta stay.
Joy.
Got to keep that joy.
Yes.
And I just gave you a little bit of jazz, but you know what I got to do? I got to jump back in the club. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the one and only 50 Cent, baby. Going back in the day, because that's when I used to play. We used to light it up, bringing you the hottest music on the planet, and we do it right here on WODU, the Dreammaker Show. It's the heartbeat of Old Dominion. Get somebody, call them, call them, tell them it's time to go, shorty. It's,
It's your birthday. We gon' party like it's your birthday. We gon' sip Bacardi like it's your birthday. And you know we don't give up, cause that's your birthday. You can find me in the club, bottle full of bub. Mama, I got what you need if you need to feel the buzz. I'm into having sex, I ain't into making love. So come give me a hug if you're into getting rough. You can find me in the club, bottle full of bub. Mama, I got what you need if you need to feel the buzz. I'm into having sex, I ain't into making love. So come give me a hug if you're into getting rough. When I pull up out front, you see the Benz on dub. When I roll 20 deep, it's always drama in the club. Now that I roll with Dre, everybody show me love. When you sell like Eminem, you get plenty of groupie love. Look, homie, ain't nothing changed. Rolls down, G's up. I see exhibit in the cutting, man. Watch how I move, you mistake before I play up here. Been hit with a few, but I don't walk with a limp. In the hood, in the LA, they saying 50, you hot. They like me, I want them to love me like they love pop. But holla in New York, for show, they tell you I'm local. And the plan is to put the rap game in the choke. I'm fully focused, man. My money on my mind, got a meal out the deal, and I'm still in the grind. Now shorty says she feeling my style, she feeling my flow. A girl from Wooded, they buy, and they ready to go. Find me in the club, bottle full of bub. Mama, I got what you need if you need to feel the buzz. I'm into having sex, I ain't into making love. So come give me a hug if you're into getting rough. You can find me in the club, bottle full of bub. Mama, I got what you need if you need to feel the buzz. I'm into having sex, I ain't into making love. So come give me a hug if you're into getting rough. My flow, my show brought me to go. That brought me all my fancy things. My cars, my clothes, my shoes. Look, homie, I done came up and I ain't changing. You should love it way more than you hate it. Oh, you mad? I thought that you be happy I made it. I'm that cat by the bar, toasting to the good life. Moved out the hood, now you tryna pull me back, right? When my junk get the bumping in the club, it's on. I'm with my eyes to chicks, if she smash, she gone. Hit the roof on fire, man. Just let it burn. If the talking about money, homie, I ain't concerned. I'ma tell you what banks told me, cause go ahead, switch the style up. And if they hate, then let them hate, then watch the money pile up. Or we can go upside the head with a bottle of bug. Come on, they know where we be. You can find me in the club, bottle full of bug. Mama, I got what you need if you need to feel the buzz. I'm into having sex, I ain't into making love. So come give me a hug if you're into getting rough. You can find me in the club, bottle full of bug. Mama, I got what you need if you need to feel the buzz. I'm into having sex, I ain't into making love. So come give me a hug if you're into getting rough. Don't try to act like you don't know who we be, neither. We in the club all the time, it's a pop on. Shady Aftermath.
Stay there forever.
ladies say, oh, you already know, we be getting money. All my ladies say, oh, we be making moves, we be stacking honey. All my ladies say, oh, get familiar, nothing's gonna stop it. All my ladies say, oh, all my ladies say, oh. To my lady, champagne spilling out. Crazy, yeah, that chick, she crazy. 365 of them days, we work, we play harder. Oh yeah, throw a couple ones in the air like you don't care. I am who I am, and I am on top of my game, yeah. Brand new bag full of stacks of them things. I'm a gang, yeah. All my ladies say, yeah. I swear I am an empire. I see them stacks going higher. I swear, yeah. All my ladies say, oh, you already know, we be getting money. All my ladies say, oh, we be making moves, we be stacking honey. All my ladies say, oh, get familiar, nothing's gonna stop it. All my ladies say, oh, all my ladies say, oh, all my ladies say, oh.
That's Chiffon Clairiere. All my ladies say, ho, get that money. Talking about making money, taking care of business right here at WODU, the heartbeat of Old Dominion.
And now another exciting episode of Captain 85.
In the past, many of my stories have dealt with children, some who I've helped to save, and some who weren't so lucky. This story centers around a young man and what can happen to those even in the upper echelon of crime.
Now this little beauty is a must-have with the local gangs. I got about a dozen left.
His name, Nathan Beaumont. Occupation, gun dealer.
It's all there, man. I ain't gonna stiff you. I got my rep to keep.
Lots of guys say that.
Nate sold guns to both sides of the street. He even had people sell for him. One night after making a sale, he stopped at a gas station. He didn't see the addict hiding near the mini-mart, watching his every move. And, as a result, he was carjacked and shot to death by a man who had bought one of his own guns. May he rest in peace.
That's brought to you by Community Action People. Incorporated, a nonprofit 501c organization dealing with stopping bullying and the gun violence in our community, reaching out to our young people. More on that later on. Once again, The Real Adventures of Captain 85 coming real soon. And coming real soon, the Captain 85 Street and Web Commandos. If you want to be part of the club, you want to be part of a positive movement in your community. A lot more coming on that. Details coming. Don't forget, coming up at 12 o'clock, we got the best of the 757. Melovee, once again, who is our guest today?
Yes, former Virginia Beach Deputy Chief John Bell.
Okay.
And he's going to come on and talk about his law enforcement career and his candidacy for Virginia Beach Sheriff. So we're looking forward to him coming in to the studios to tell us more about what he's up to.
All righty, then. That sounds great. More positive things coming your way, and of course, I'm a DJ. And this is B. Michelle. I'm talking about the DJ keeps playing my song right here on WODU, the heartbeat of Old Dominion.
Feels so right, it got to be wrong. Close, wrapped around me, don't stop, touch my body. It feels so right, it got to be wrong. Close, wrapped around me, don't stop, touch my body. Ooh, it feels good, don't wanna stop. You drive me crazy, making me hot. Boy, where you come from? It must be Mars, 'cause you're out of this world, just like a shooting star. What we do, it feels so crazy. Gotta lay it, pull me close, wrapped around me, don't stop, touch my body. It feels so right, it got to be wrong. Close, wrapped around me, don't stop, touch my body. It feels so right, it got to be wrong. Close, wrapped around me, don't stop, touch my body.
The DJ playing my song. The DJ playing my song. The DJ playing my song. Feels so right, it must be wrong. The DJ playing my song. Hey DJ, play my song. The DJ playing my song. Feels so right, it must be wrong. I got my goons by my side, reppin' they shit. I'm about to ball doing the same old two-step. Went from ashy, now I'm flashy. See, so classy, can't let her pass me.
It feels so right, it got to be wrong. Close, wrapped around me, don't stop, touch my body. It feels so right, it got to be wrong. Close, wrapped around me, don't stop, touch my body.
Feels so right that it must be wrong. Two by my side, one bottle of Patron. Look in the eyes, just wanna get it on. End of the night, yeah, we gonna get it on. Hey DJ, keep playing my song. Mr. DJ, keep playing my song. Party just started and I'm halfway gone. We gon' get it on till 6 in the morning.
It feels so right, it got to be wrong. Close, wrapped around me, don't stop, touch my body. It feels so right, it got to be wrong. Close, wrapped around me, don't stop, touch my body.
The DJ playing my song. The DJ playing my song. The DJ playing my song. Feels so right, it must be wrong. The DJ playing my song. Hey DJ, play my song. The DJ playing my song. Feels so right, it must be wrong.
It feels so right, it got to be wrong. Close, wrapped around me, don't stop, touch my body. It feels so right, it got to be wrong. Close, wrapped around me, don't stop, touch my body.
I got low feelings. I have low feelings. I gotta fade away. I wanna take this pain away. I get lost feelings. The reason I ain't breaking days. It's like when I make a day. I get low feelings. I got this pain in my heart. It got me broken, got me feeling it. I get low feelings. I got this pain in my heart. It got me broken, got me feeling it.
I lost my feelings when I lost great. I lost my feelings was when I lost T. So my job to love is pretty on E. Never told nobody about Chrissy, I kept it quiet though. Silent straight face in my heart, I'm always crying though. Mid-break, 12 years friends, see that's a lifeline. Wanna be a million that love, she was my lifeline. Hard to live without you, I'm just thinking I can't. It's crazy how you said you like me, then you got you a man. Treat you different than most, cause it ain't nothing the same. Thinking when you're gonna call so we can smile again. Neither Jada and the pop love, Dilla holding the block love. Will they ever find it, don't know, I'm lost. For friends, but they ain't catching me back. We built a bond like no other, and that loyalty tag. Rick King was like my brother, we was always gonna ride. Even though they took your life, but you gonna live through mine. I regret falling off with the people I love. Held it down at any time, but I ain't holding no grudge. That's life, I'm moving on, I ain't doing no wrong. I was there for anything, I kept it solid and stay strong. Hope I get my feelings, anytime would be great. I pray to God to keep me humble, I'm just calling my way. I'm just looking in the mirror, got me thinking I lost it. Just thinking about my past and my feelings and off it, I lost my feelings.
Your happiness. wonderful time we had together. Now it's getting late and we must leave each other. Yeah. Just remember the time we had and how right I tried to be. It's all in a day's work, cold losing your love, acting foolishly. Hey, go on and take your time, 'cause you're only losing me. Love is a long ways from here. Tell you it's all in the way you feel. If love is real, come to me. Call me, call me, call me, come back home. The best thing I can do is give you your love, give you your love, babe. Let you go away, feeling as free as a dove. And if you find you're a long ways from home and somebody's doing you wrong, just call me, baby, and come back home. Call me, come back home. Call me back home. Call me when things ain't going right. Yeah, it's all in a day's work. Call me when you're lonely. You can call me when you're feeling sad, baby. Oh, oh, oh. Yeah, it's all in a day's work. Come back.
I never had a love to call my own. I was about to give, and then you came along. Just to have your tender ways thrills me for days and days. I don't care what nobody says. I want you for always. Now that I found you, I wanna stay around you. So make me yours, make me yours, make me yours. You already claimed me, my heart and my soul. Now I want you to take full control. Yeah, I need the love that only you can give. If I can't have it, I don't want to live. No, I never had a love so sweet. I never thought I'd be lucky enough to meet a guy with all your charms, to hold me with loving arms, make me feel secure and warm, cause my heart will
Hello?
Hello, may I speak to Jody?
This is Jody.
Jody, my name is Peggy, and I'm a lonely housewife, and I was wondering, can you help me?
What's the matter, baby? You getting insufficient love at home?
Exactly.
Your old man ain't giving you what you need?
Nope.
Well, now, there's 3 other lonely ladies ahead of you, but I'll try to squeeze you in. Meanwhile, tell me about it.
When I'm in the mood, my old man is not. I toss and turn, yearn and burn. I can't sleep when I'm hot. Every time I try to turn him on, he turns his back and says, leave me alone. If Mr. Right won't get it, I bet you Mr. Wrong will be more than glad to hit it. If Mr. Right has no desire, I'm gonna let Mr. Wrong set this thing on fire. Yes, I am. I wanna be a do-right woman, but my patience is sure enough running out. You see, I've got a feeling that he's out there getting what he's making me stay at home and doing without. If Mr. Right, ooh, won't get it, I bet you Mr. Wrong will be more than glad to hit it. If Mr. Right has no desire, I'm gonna let Mr. Wrong, yes I am, set the thing on fire. Ooh, feels like my body is about to explode. I need relief from this mother load. Yes, I do, yeah. When a woman's needs are being denied at home, she gotta go somewhere else and try to get it on. If Mr. Right, oh, won't get it, I bet you Mr. Wrong will be more than glad to hit it. If Mr. Right has no desire, I'm gonna let Mr. Wrong, yes I am, set it on fire. Oh well, what is a girl to do when she needs to be used and she's being refused? Here's what I'm telling you. Oh, girlfriend of mine had to call on Jody, cause her old man never wanna get it home. Guess what? She found out what she got from Jody was better than anything she ever got at home. Now it's Mr. Right, oh, won't get it. I tell you, Mr. Wrong knows what to do with it. If Mr. Right,
WODU, the heartbeat of Old Dominion. We going live on Facebook. We on live everywhere. Good evening and welcome to the Best of the 757 Community Talk Show. That's what we do. We talk over here. And we invite exciting guests to come in and to talk with us. Melovee, introduce our special guest today.
We got him in the studios, folks.
Oh, yeah.
He's here. He's the former Deputy Chief of Virginia Beach, and now he's a candidate for sheriff. So we got him here. We're going to pick his brain about law enforcement because in these days we need to know more about that side of the game because so much is going on in our society, and we need people in place that can have a compassion and a concern for the people, not just for the position. Amen? Amen. So we thank you for being here, former Deputy Chief John Bell. We have him here in the WODU studios, and we want to welcome you. And you can kind of introduce yourself and let the people know who you are and what you're doing and why you're here.
Let me slide that around the other way. Yeah, I forgot.
Right. Good morning, good afternoon now, but thank you for having me on your program.
Yeah.
And as Ms. Marshall mentioned, my name is John Bell. I'm a retired Deputy Chief of Police. I served the city of Virginia Beach for 40 years, my last 5 years being Deputy Chief of Police. So I was enjoying retirement for about a year and a half, and the Lord had other plans for me. So folks in the community asked me to come out of retirement and run for sheriff because they had some concerns about what was happening in the city of Virginia Beach.
Right. And I know that we're both from the city of New York.
Brooklyn. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm from the Bronx, and we sent our hearts and felt condolences to those who are going through what they're going through in our city, our hometown. And I know that you're also was a law enforcement officer in New York. So tell us a little bit about your background and that portion of it. And
Sure.
we want to find out, in reference to what's going on up there with the terrorist situation, you know, what are your thoughts about it? And then we'll get into it.
Sure. Well, you know, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, you mentioned, and I went to Columbia University. At the end of my junior year at Columbia, my lifelong dream was to be a law enforcement officer.
Okay.
So at the end of my junior year at Columbia, I left, much to my mother's chagrin. I didn't complete my studies there, but I became a police officer, and I was an officer in New York for 2 years.
Okay.
And my plan was to do 20 years and retire, but the Lord had other plans. So during that time, 1975, New York went through a financial crunch, and they laid off about 5,000 police officers.
Wow.
And I ended up coming to Virginia Beach, where I had family in this area. And again, I was blessed to be able to serve the city of Virginia Beach for 40 years with the police department.
Right. And your last position with the city of Virginia Beach is you were the Internal Affairs Deputy Chief.
Right. Well, the police department is broken into 3 divisions, and my division included Internal Affairs, where I was a captain before, but it also includes accreditation, which makes sure that officers are complying with policies and procedures. And I also had our training, all of our training, which included the police academy and all in-service training. So I was responsible for bringing in things like juvenile perspectives to teach officers that juvenile brains are different.
Right.
They process information differently. And I also brought in a young lady from Florida who taught our officers and community members as well on fair and impartial policing. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Just to recognize that, you know, we all have implicit biases, but to teach our officers that whatever biases they may have, they can't allow that to affect how they treat people.
That. Yeah,
exactly.
That's right. And you know what? When we hear internal affairs, you know, from watching all the police shows, right? You was like, oh my God, that's the person who policed the police.
Exactly.
You're the one that if somebody has a gripe or a concern about something involving a police officer, you would be the one that they would contact at the time, and you would follow it through and develop a case or not.
Right, and where people contact the police department, but also where we police ourselves, because people don't realize the investigations that are started inside of the police department when things come to the attention of different commands. So it's not just the public making us aware of things,
but it's also internal, because that's actually internal affairs. If there's a situation going on, I guess it's human resource disputes. I guess if someone had an issue with another officer, I'm an officer, they're an officer, and I now have an issue.
Well,
this is what is
we typically didn't get involved in that. It was more of improper conduct by officers.
Okay, improper. Okay.
Yes. So if another officer saw something, a use of force, and felt it wasn't appropriate, if a captain became aware of a situation by a citizen calling anonymously and saying that, you know, I don't want to give my name or anything, but this is what I saw, the commands would request an internal investigation, and we would investigate the police. So naturally, it's not the most popular place in the police department.
No, because you know, like, as you said, watching these police shows, you know, when you hear the internal affairs person coming in, like, okay, all right, they're the one. It's almost like a feeling of being miscued, you know, and you know.
And you're right, and it's some place that a lot of supervisors don't want to go because, again, you're used to having that camaraderie with the officers, but when you're there, you're there to make sure you maintain the integrity of the organization, and that comes first. And sometimes it means you have to make tough calls to say officers did things that were wrong, and sometimes a mistake of the head and sometimes a mistake of the heart.
Right, exactly, right. And it's good to have that in place because you need that.
You have to have it.
You have to have it.
You have to have it.
We have to. Just like we have the different branches of government, you know, supposed to check and balances.
Right.
So
exactly.
we got to make sure that we have that also in the local level in our police officers. Now, what made you want to run for office? And I'm asking this because I've known you for many years. This is not your first go round.
No, it's not. I ran for sheriff in 2009 when I was a captain in the police department. Well, it's funny you asked that, and you know, I mentioned I worked for 40 years with the police department.
Right.
I retired December 31st of 2015, and my wife Cora and I were enjoying retirement. We were traveling, you know, to Florida, and I've got a son in Texas, so we're visiting. Just had my second granddaughter 4 weeks ago. Yesterday. So we haven't had a chance to see her yet in person. But you know, we were visiting my son in New York, who's now in Orlando, and my son in Texas. So we were enjoying retirement. But people in the community approached me and they said, look, you know, we've got concerns, number one, of working with the police department, the city on issues. They had concerns involving minority recruitment, the use of force, body-worn cameras, things like that. And I was approached and asked if I would go with the community as an advocate, to be on the side of the community just addressing some of these issues. So I agreed to do that, and I attended a series of meetings. And during the course of the meetings, which dealt with minority recruitment, it dealt with body-worn cameras, because I was appointed by Governor McAuliffe to the Secure Commonwealth panel, Secure Resilience and Commonwealth panel.
Okay.
So we look at, I would co-chair a panel with Senator John Watkins, who's retired now, Republican, on body-worn cameras. So the recommendations we made basically set in place the recommended policies and procedures for the use of body-worn cameras statewide.
Right.
So they asked me to go meet with them, but during the series of these meetings, several people in the community asked me if I would come out of retirement because of the concerns with breaking that school-to-prison pipeline, where
That's right.
many of our youth get involved in behavior which results in them being incarcerated. And as we all know, the criminal justice system disproportionately affects minority youth.
Right, exactly.
So they asked me if I would do that. I told a particular pastor in the community that I would pray on it. And I was in
always a good thing.
Yes, a good thing. And this was in March, and it's ironic. I told this story to a few people on Saturday at the program. And this pastor asked me to come out. He says, your community needs you again. We need you to come out of retirement. I said, Pastor, I'll pray on it. I'll get back to you.
Right.
And I prayed on it, and God sent me messages that, as much as I've been blessed, he expected me to continue to give back.
That's right. If we're blessed, we're called to be a blessing.
Yes.
So whatever knowledge and information you have is not for us. It's always for the people, for other folks. So
thank you.
You're formidable because you've already done this before.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We have students here. We have people who are listening who may want to get into politics. What would you suggest? What would be your main points that you would say to them as to why you should get into politics?
Get involved, and regardless of what party you get involved with, get involved and know what's happening in your community. And I've said it several times. All politics is local. We look at what's happening on a national level, but we don't realize the impact we could have on local politics just by getting involved. Attending school board meetings, attending city council meetings, attending meetings of different organizations to see what's happening in the community, and just step up and get involved. I know myself, what I do on elections, and is a young lady and I, we transport students to polls, just to volunteer to work the polls so they can get information, become aware of different candidates who are running. So I didn't get involved in politics until late 2000s, before I started
And that's about
running.
the time, because that's when I met you, when you were first running.
Right.
And like you said, you have to get involved on a local level. You have to, because that affects you at the immediate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
So
people don't realize that. They just look at the top of the ticket.
The top of the ticket, right. And if nobody running at the top of the ticket, they don't think it's an important election. And that's the thing that we want to push here as well, because you have to, just because it's not a federal election this year, you need to vote. You need to. I've already voted.
I did too.
Yes, I've already voted. I'm working as an election official, so I want to make sure I got my vote in. But we have to get involved because it affects our communities disproportionately, like you said. And a lot of times, if you don't know, or the candidates, you need to get involved so you can be in these circles and get to know folks. So
do some research, make an informed decision on what's going on in your community.
Exactly
and you mentioned the importance of voting. President Obama was in Richmond. Matter of fact, it was the same day I was in Richmond for a Secure Commonwealth meeting, and I watched some of his comments. And one of the things he said is that we tend not to really get involved in off years when it's not a presidential election.
That's exactly right.
But he was saying that we tend to fall asleep at the switch, is what he said in midterms, not realizing how important our local elections are to us. So, and again, I'm stressing how important it is for all of us to come out and vote.
Right, because the local elections undergird you most. And then when you have the federal election, then you got those people in place you voted for. Now that's a chain of whoever you vote for, whatever part, you got that chain now. You voted in your local people that you want, and now you got to get the federal election. You get those people elected, so you can have your voice heard. You have to be at the table. Someone representing you that's at the table.
Sure.
But I applaud you because when like I said, I'm interviewing you, but I do know you, but I have to interview you like I don't, right?
Sure, no
problem.
problem.
But the platform that you're running on, tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I mentioned a little bit earlier, but it's that school-to-prison pipeline. Congressman Bobby Scott has endorsed me, and one thing I continue to hear him talking about is breaking that school-to-prison pipeline. And in Virginia Beach, Dr. Aaron Spence, who's the superintendent of schools, before I retired, he asked me to be a part of a school discipline task force where we looked at how discipline was applied to African-American males, and it was disproportionately applied to them. So I was on a task force, it opened my eyes, and then I looked at what was happening in our communities. And when I made deputy chief in 2010, that's when we made a concerted effort to get more involved in our communities, doing surveys, getting officers more involved in the community, because when we started doing the surveys in 2010, a lot of citizens were saying, well, what do you think about your police department? And they said, well, they drive by with their windows up, but that's it. So, you know, we said, no, we need to get them out of the cars, get them in the community, talking to our citizens, but talking to our youth as well. And that's part of the reason I'm running, is that I'm so concerned what's happening with our youth now. Right now, they're turning to guns and gangs and violence. Yeah. And because gangs and that negative influence, that's their family.
Right.
And what I want to do as the next sheriff of the city of Virginia Beach is to get the deputies out of the jails, get them in the community, and being mentors and role models to these young people, but to try to steer them in the right direction. Because I feel that who best to tell them what life faces behind bars but a deputy who's going to tell them what's going to happen. I'm going to control every minute of your life when you're behind bars. Because young people, they don't process information the way you do
not
adults.
until it happens.
Exactly.
And then they're in the midst of it, and it's like, oh my God, I didn't know it was like this. But the other component of your platform is, you know, deputy sheriffs. I was reading that you want to make conditions better for them as well.
Right, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you just did a little promo in reference to that. So tell us more about that. What conditions? What do you?
Well, you mentioned terrorism. We talked about what happened in New York,
yes.
And you know, I think that the deputies they're underappreciated. They're not paid the same as police officers. I think they should be. And what I like to do is to also, as a service to our citizens, because of the military presence in Hampton Roads, because of possibility of natural disasters. We need to have cooperation, effective and efficient use of resources. And while police officers are typically seen as first responders because they go to calls for service,
you always hear that, yeah.
The deputies are always there to help out. And if we have a terrorist attack, if we have a natural disaster where officers have to respond to that because of the training they have, well, then the deputies can also respond as well. But I like to have them trained, and they call it BLE, Basic Law Enforcement Certified.
Okay.
So they have that full certification, and my opponent has talked about that in the past, even when I was with the police department. But I want to continue that and expand on it because I think the deputies, number one, need to have that training.
They are part of the.
Yes, they are, no question about it.
And you know, having you mentioned that, I'm looking back over when you see disasters happen or issues happen with terrorists. You do see sheriffs out there. You do see deputies. But nobody ever says, you know, and I guess they're lumping them all together, but we always think about the police force as opposed to, you know, the sheriff's department, which is all in one. You wouldn't know this, but I worked, when I was in high school, I worked for the Bronx County Courthouse, the sheriff's department.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was in high school, and I learned a lot about dispossessions. You know, they would go and serve people with repossession. So I thought that's all that they did, you know, because.
And a lot of people don't know what the sheriff's office does, and it's different throughout the Commonwealth. And in Virginia Beach, the police department, they're the primary law enforcement organization.
Okay.
The sheriff's office is mainly responsible for civil process, serving court papers, like you were saying. They're responsible for security of the court buildings, for the citizens, the judges, and they're also responsible for the correctional center, for security of the inmates and all the employees of their visitors. So that's their main focus. But I think that by having them fully certified, and you look at what happened in Vegas, the sheriff's office there, they are fully certified, so they respond to things like natural disasters, terrorist attacks. At Virginia Beach, the deputies are basically trained to handle the sheriff's office, the correctional center, things like that. But I like to have them have that full certification so that if we have a terrorist attack,
you have more hands on deck.
More hands on deck, and if the police officers have to respond to the front line, you still have to take care of those calls for service in the neighborhoods, keeping the citizens in the streets safe. So I would like to have the deputies available to kind of backfill that, and also, if necessary, to come up to that front line and help the officers out. And also, I believe that they deserve to have pay parity. And by having that certification, a lot of times you look at certifications, that sometimes
so that ups
gives you
the level of their pay if they can get
well,
that
hopefully.
certificate.
Well, I think it will give us a little more weight, if you will, to make a case for increasing their pay and hopefully having parity. So I support the deputies. And there are people that say that, well, he doesn't believe the deputies are as good as police officers. That's definitely not the case. My son was a deputy for a couple of years. And I believe that we can do that if we work together. And because of my connections I've had in the state house, you know, with different people I know, different levels of government, I think that's something I could make a case for, a compelling case for.
Make it happen, right. So, okay. And so at least they know that once you get in there and you're their chief or they're the person in charge, that you're also looking out for them as well.
I've been blessed, and whenever I was a captain with all the precincts I've had in the Detective Bureau, I looked out for my folks. Now, our first responsibility was to the citizens, but I also looked out for the officers as well, and I plan to do the same for my deputies as a sheriff.
Okay. You had a question?
I was just going to send a shout out to Clarence, Neely.
Sure. Hey.
He said he's voting for you.
Yes, I appreciate that. Appreciate it, Clarence.
And also send a mad shout out to Michael Mazon. He's with Greenbrier Dodge. He's chiming in as well.
Great.
DJ Heart Attack of
Yeah.
103 Jams.
And also
Thank you so
Angels
much.
Everywhere. That's then she's over at one of the hospitals watching in. And then Mr.
Tron
Kent.
Yeah.
He's
Gene
in
White,
Beach.
thank you. All right. We got a couple of people.
So if you got any
chiming in.
questions, please
Tamika
text.
Winborn, thank you.
Text it in. You know, if you got a shout out or information you want to ask.
You know what? How would someone? Okay, you're going to be
Proclaim
the
it,
sheriff
right.
in the name of Jesus, right, of Virginia Beach. How would someone go about becoming a deputy? You know we need more diversity on the police force as well as in the sheriff's department,
office,
and also. So how would someone go about?
Well, it's just a matter of applying through the office. They go through the city human resources as far as applying. And there's an academy. Matter of fact, part of my division.
Okay, so they do, because I know the police academy in Norfolk. I've seen it. Yeah.
Well, they're in the same building. Matter of fact, part of my division was our training. I mentioned that, and the old SeaTac Elementary School. That's they call it LEADA, Law Enforcement Training Academy. So the police department has one side of the building, and the sheriff's office has the other, and that's where their academies go through. So they have to go through an academy. It's a rigorous process they have to go through. But again, they're primarily trained to take care of the correctional center, the courthouse, and civil process.
Okay.
But like I said, I like to expand upon that to make them basic law enforcement certified. And we had it, even when I was in charge of training, we had a few deputies that came through our regular academies, 26 weeks with the police department. I'm not sure how long they're going to have their academy if they look at doing that, but we did 26 weeks with the police department because there's so much more involved in it because of what you're doing on the street, being that first responder.
Right.
But you didn't ask. But one of the things that also concern me is reentry. I'm a member of the Virginia Beach Reentry Council, and there are people in jail who have made bad choices and not necessarily bad people. There are violent offenders that need to stay in jail, and for 40 years, I think I did a pretty good job as a commander of Detective Bureau and commander of some precincts to make sure we got the bad guys off the street. But there are people who have made bad choices, and we need to show some compassion when those people incarcerated who have made those bad choices, nonviolent offenders, and they want to come back to society. We need to prepare them. It's a correctional center.
Right.
That's what the
so
jail
it's
is.
Correction, right?
Yeah,
Thereby.
so that's what it should be doing. And I want to basically work with businesses, and I've already talked to a couple of businesses that are interested in providing training to the inmates who are going to be released so that
That'd be awesome.
they can have jobs when they come back. They can pay taxes, take care of their families, hopefully not reoffend. And it makes us as citizens safer. And again, people want to succeed. They want to have their families proud of them. And by providing that training when they come out, because it's tough. And as part of Reentry Council, we had a job fair, and I had to call a lot of businesses to see if they would take part in this job fair. And there's so many businesses out there that say, well, no, if you've got a record, I can't do anything with you. But again, there are positions that they can hold if they have the training, and that gives them a leg up, I think, by having the training.
Right, because they're not going to go back and reoffend because
Hopefully
they
not.
have some gainful employment or have some training. A lot of other states having success with that. They're taking in people that need to be regentrified, but it's
reintegrated into society.
Reintegrated into society, and they're forming programs to train their force, because a lot of people manufacturing jobs.
Sure.
There's nobody that wants construction jobs. They're saying that there's a lack of folks for those jobs. But now what certain people have done in several other states is taken those groups and said, you have to follow these guidelines.
Right.
And there's some hard, stiff guidelines, but we will train you to develop their own workforce for their own industry, because a lot of people are not going into certain industries anymore, and they don't know what to do. They're scrambling for people to take those jobs.
I agree.
So that
and even looking at Virginia Beach, look at the problem we've had with flooding. There are going to be many contracts, I'm sure, that come up down the road to provide workers to deal with that problem, to build up the infrastructure. That's something we could look at, providing training for that.
Right.
But it's about, providing training for them so that they can't use it as an excuse to say, well, I don't have any training, no one will hire me.
Right.
But it's also having a faith-based support when they come out also, because a lot of times you open the doors, they walk out, there's no one there to is everything okay? Can I help you out?
Right, they
Need
just
support?
walk right back into the street and right
Right.
back into maybe what they were doing previously.
Right.
Maybe in a worse situation.
Right.
With most of your people that incarcerated in the Afro-American community, does most of that come from single parent or a two-family, two-parenting?
I don't know the numbers as far as the data on that, but but we look in our community. There are a lot of women that do a great job raising their sons. But, you know, unfortunately, I think that, you know, you need to have a man in the house, a male figure to teach them how to be a man. It should be that way. And I believe that by having the deputies, it goes back to that, being in the community, men and women talking to these young people about what facing behind bars. I think we can change that, because those gangs, that's the reason a lot of our young people turn to gangs, they're family. You know, so I'd rather have them. Coming up in Brooklyn, New York, I played baseball with the Police Athletic League, and the policemen at the 75th Precinct, they were the ones, my mentors and role models. They were the ones when I started going off track a little bit. They're the ones got me. Well, John, what are you doing hanging out with such and such? You know, and I acted up. I was driving a little too fast. They're the ones that took me home, and I'd rather go to jail in those days than go home. And they took care of it. So I want to go back to that, where our community are the ones who kind of keep our people straight. But having the deputies there in the community being the mentors and role models. And we talk about that school to prison pipeline. A lot of people don't realize that the jail cells that are built in the nation are built on the third grade, based on the third grade reading level of our young people. So it's so important to have that, stress the importance of education. And I've talked to someone who works in another city in Hampton Roads with the police department and sheriff's office, to have the deputies and the police officers going into the schools. They don't, the sheriff's office of Virginia Beach, they don't do the DARE program anymore, where they used to be in elementary school. So they stopped that. But that doesn't mean that we can't have deputies going from school to school to talk to the young people about the importance of education, spending some time with them. And in one program that I know Norfolk takes part in, that I took part in visiting a program they had, they do that. They have their officers go to the schools, sit down and help the kids read, do their homework, stress the importance of education, let them know there's someone that cares. But also, we look at what's happening in our schools with bullying. And that provides an opportunity for the deputies to be in the schools talking to young people about the negative effects of bullying. A lot of we have school resource officers in our high schools to talk to young people about, you know, students talk, to be able to let the deputies know as well that, look, such and such is being the victim of bullying, to talk to the person who's being affected by it, but also talk to the perpetrator of that bullying as well.
See, and thank you for bringing that up, because also there's so many people, children taking their lives behind this. This is a very serious situation. Subject, I know Voice of Inspiration has a story that that's been prevalent in the Virginia Beach community.
And I heard you're probably talking about the one with the mother and her daughter.
Yes.
And that's the reason it's so important for us to be proactive in dealing with bullying, because it's happening. And I want us to be proactive with the sheriff's office and breaking that school to prison pipeline in the community, but also in the schools, stressing the importance of education and also dealing with the issue of bullying.
Even you know, at some point, because my organization's Community Action People Incorporated, dealing with bullying and teen violence to try to get them away from them. One of the young ladies just said, Jean White, you know, what about our youth need to know, you know, every vote counts? You know, have they all been, you know, talked about going to the election, know how to go to the election poll? Have they registered? Because I know I'm taking at least 4 18-year-olds that's never registered before. That's going to be voting on Tuesday. You know, the premises is with bullying, you have to be able to, you know, constantly be in their face. You know, to let them know that you love them and you care. You know,
You're right, and that's it. And, you know, by having the deputies on a regular basis going to the schools, talking to the young people in schools about bullying, being in the community, talking to our youth about the implications of poor choices when it comes to drugs and gangs and violence. Because, and again, that one of the things that with the police department, when I brought in the program Juvenile Perspectives, which talked about, you know, the teen brain being differently, a lot of our young people, they think, you know, you get out here and you shoot somebody, you press a button, they jump back up. You know,
because of television. You
they don't realize the implications.
You know, they really don't understand that they're gone. They're no longer here.
And it affects not just them, but, you know, their families on both sides, the victim and their families as well, the perpetrators. So we need to do that, and we can do it working together as citizens, a community, working with the sheriff's office, the police department, and doing that. And again, don't get me started.
No, but having someone in the system that the kids can go to and have, you know, and not be afraid. We have to let kids know that they can't be afraid of people in uniform. If they're in the schools and if there's something going on, you know, and they can go over to the side or talk to the officer or whatever they say. Because when I worked in the school system, they did have their officers, and you know they were always available if something went on. Even if and so we still need to have that presence, because with all this bullying going on. kids are afraid to say, you know, they're not going to tell their parents, you know, and you know, it's
They'll
just,
tell the classmates,
right.
the classmates
Or the
that
classmates
they trust.
know at the bus stop and all that. Yeah.
If they trust law enforcement or deputies there.
Right.
You know,
And they're used to
police
seeing
officers,
them and they're
deputies.
friendly.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of getting the information and doing something about it, and we need to change
Saving
it.
lives, because you know these
Sure.
kids are not taking this as lightly as we would think they would.
I also want to let you know that Araba Scooby from Virginia Beach, he's watching in, and Tony Jones.
Yep,
from-
Tony Jones. Yeah,
so
he's
that's
watching
good.
his, from Hype, and he's been on the program talking about his situation and how his life has been turned around. In reference to
People
being
can
in jail.
change, you know.
Yes, they can. He's doing wonderful work in the community.
Yeah.
He was pardoned by President Obama. He received clemency from President Obama.
Okay, that's great.
But we got Mary Eaton. Thank you for joining in. Wells Davis. Thank you. R.G. Gaines. Thank you for chiming in. And we're going to keep continuing with the discussion. You were talking about educating, or how the importance of education is for inmates. I know that you did a book program. You took books and magazines to inmates.
Right.
You know.
And it's about trying to help. It's about literacy, and about letting even inmates know that people care. And you know, my opponent announced that they had a program where they were trying to collect books for the inmates, and we bought some books from the library. They have books that they either throw away or they sell at nominal price. So we bought 100 books, and you know, my wife and I took them down on a hand cart and delivered them to the jail.
That's right.
So I hope they were giving the inmates a chance to have some reading material to learn to read and to build their skills. So it's about coming together and trying to make a difference. And
now, currently in the correctional system, is there, you know, a way for them to get the GED, or I mean, how
they have a program in there, but you know, if my understanding is that there's a fee involved in them going through the program.
Really?
And you know, I want to have it so that this is something that's going to benefit all of us when they come back. So there are ways that I think you can get funding.
Okay.
And there are ways you could raise money to provide them with the GED, you know, so that when they come out, that's at least the minimum they have.
The minimal, right? So I didn't know that they didn't. If you're in,
and it's unfortunate. And that's a lot of people don't realize. A lot of things that are made available to the inmates in there, they have to pay for it, and that's a concern of mine. And it comes down to food. And one of the things that people don't realize is that, and I know we went on a tour about a month and change ago as part of Reentry Council, and you know, they talked about the food and the calories that are there each day, but you know, I've talked to recently inmates who have contacted me on social media and saying, you know, the food's not that good. But what they have is they have a Care Mart as a program they have where your family can go online and buy food for the loved ones behind bars at ridiculously high prices. And, you know, you have the families who are basically in a situation where the breadwinner's in jail and they want to have decent food. In order to have that, they've got to buy it. I talked to one gentleman, and his girlfriend is incarcerated in Virginia Beach, and he told me that he's spending between $250 and $300 a week on food for her, because she says the food is not, you know, it doesn't have to be the Ritz, but still it needs to be edible. And there several people have said it's not. So they're paying these ridiculously high prices for food because they can't eat the regular food that's there. Many people don't know that.
Okay, because you know, I would assume that they get their meals, you know, and that's provided. If they wanted extra, somebody would have to put money, what they call the books, on the books.
Right.
But I didn't know that the education part, as we paying taxpayer dollars, that a person that's incarcerated who wants to better themselves would benefit all of us, and including the inmate. I didn't know they had to pay for that to get a GED or any type of further education. I didn't know that.
There are a lot of things that inmates are charged for, and I mentioned the books
I know
taking
soap,
it down there.
or if you needed, you know, stuff for, you know.
Right, I understand that, but you know, but even with crossword puzzles, I had talked to someone who was incarcerated, and they said that even if you know if there wasn't any books available, which I don't know why there wouldn't be, because people are donating books, but that you could buy a crossword puzzle.
You could ask people to donate books.
Sure.
I mean, somebody would just go in magazines in the house, or extra books you have on the shelf. You know, could you bring them down to the sheriff's department and we'll pass them on?
Yeah, but they again, I just feel that they take advantage of the inmates that are there and the families that are outside, because they're struggling on the outside to make ends meet, and then if their loved ones are saying, well, look, I can't eat the food here, they're going to do what they got to do to try to provide that food. And you look at the prices that they're being charged for it, and it's a lot of money. Wow. It's a lot of money. Okay. But you didn't ask us. We were talking about my commitment to mental illness and treating those folks.
That was the next one.
When I ran in 2009, it was ironic. I found a campaign card from 2009. That was part of my platform in 2009, is expanding the treatment for inmates who are mentally ill. And in 2008 in Virginia Beach, there was opportunity to get a grant from the state. It's called Crisis Intervention Team, where they train officers on how to interact with those in mental health crisis. And I was responsible for getting the grant in Virginia Beach. I managed the program for a couple of years and to train our officers and deputies, because they were part of the program that I managed for the first couple of years to train them. But I'm in favor of that. And my opponent, I'll give him credit, after he took office, even though he made a statement in 2009 that the sheriff wasn't a social worker, I think he saw the light and he started expanding the treatment there for those who are mentally ill. Because that's, I think, 40% is what I've heard as far as the number of inmates that are mentally ill. But again, it gets back to being proactive. And what I want to use my power for as a sheriff is to work with legislators in Richmond, because there's so many facilities which treat the mentally ill have been closed. Right. So they're on the streets. So what happens? They come in contact with police officers, and unfortunately it turns bad. They end up being arrested.
Or murdered.
And they're in jail. Yeah. So why not, working with our state legislators, because of the relationships I currently have, and hopefully folks that go up to Richmond, to be able to find funding to maybe have facilities in the community which can provide treatment. Because I believe if we get more treatment for these folks who have these mental health issues, perhaps they won't have those negative interactions with police officers, which result in being incarcerated.
And the police officers know best how to deal with that, because we see around the country, even locally, Portsmouth and different places, that people have been killed because the officer doesn't know that the person is mentally ill, or the relatives that we called and let them know that, and even the deaf community. I read a story where the relatives called and said, he's deaf, he doesn't understand, so if you try to tell him a command, he doesn't hear you. Right. So all of that has to come under that as well.
And people don't realize, in the training that our officers, the police officers went through, 40 hours of training on recognizing, and part of that was having headphones you wear, which simulate someone who's mentally ill and they're hearing voices. And these people actually, and I've talked to people who went through that, not just the training, but being mentally ill, have said that they actually hear voices. So when you're trying to talk to them and reason with them, they're not hearing that. They're hearing these voices in their heads. But if we can be proactive, again, in having treatment facilities, more treatment facilities, and go back to that focus. Right now we're focusing on opioids being an epidemic in our country, while mental illness is an epidemic also. And we need to be proactive in identifying resources to help provide that treatment for those folks before they go into correctional centers, because while there's treatment that's provided there, it needs to be done on the outside before they're arrested and have that criminal record.
It may not have to go to the next level, which is dealing with the corrections system.
Right. And even and it's true. And even as far as that part with mental illness, is that I'm looking to improve the effectiveness and efficiency between both organizations. And currently, now, if a police officer comes across someone who's in mental health crisis, they get the paperwork for mental health. They have to take them for treatment. Officers, and it takes 2 officers. They've had to transport clients in need of treatment as far away as Roanoke, Petersburg, Williamsburg for treatment. That's 2 officers off the street. What I propose doing is having deputies who are trained on how to transport, have those deputies meet with the 2 officers who have this person in need of treatment, have them turn the paperwork over to the sheriff's deputy, have the deputy transport them, so the officers are allowed to stay in the street, keeping the streets and the citizens safe. That's an effective and efficient, I think, use of resources and taxpayer dollars. But you need to have that closer working relationship between the 2 organizations, the police department and the sheriff's office. I contacted a sheriff in the area. I don't think
there would have been.
They haven't. Well, I was going to say, I contacted a sheriff in the area when I was thinking about this, and he says, we've been doing that for years. I'm like, really? Really? They have a limit now on how far they transport because they're so short with the sheriff's office. But he was like, yeah, we've been doing that for years. I'm like, man, that makes sense, and that's what I like to do. He said, well, John, we've been doing it for a while. Wow. So it just needs to be that better relationship between the 2 organizations. And that needs to be a priority.
With people around the country, or even regionally, to see, what works, what doesn't work, what's viable and what's not, because it all works, together. Right. We all need to be in this together. So
You're right.
That regional piece, we always, when I was dealing with the political stuff, it really boggle my mind that you know this person over this subsidiary over here don't want to deal with this one, and you know it's like okay, but if you cross the line and come to my city now, you know it's so many different things that doesn't
You're right,
fit,
Venus,
fit
and
together.
You're right, and a lot of it deals with partisan politics. And that's another reason, if you visit my website, www.johnbell4sheriff, and on Facebook, John Bell for Sheriff, you'll see that that's one of the things I'm committed to doing also, is taking that partisan politics out of the sheriff's office.
Yes.
It
shouldn't even be there.
It shouldn't be. Well, it's a nonpartisan race.
Yeah.
When you run, there's no letter next to your name, but when you look at the reality of it, it's so ingrained in that organization now. And the League of Women Voters, they had us do a survey asking should the sheriff's office be nonpartisan, should be elected, and I said yes to both, because you shouldn't have the political influence on the sheriff's office.
Right, because I shouldn't be worried about if I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican.
It has nothing to do with it. It shouldn't.
Right.
But if you look at right now, and again, my opponent's the sheriff. His brother's the Commonwealth attorney. So if you have a problem with the jail and it needs to be investigated, who you take it to? His brother. You have another brother who's in the House of Delegates. You have a sister who's a senator. You have his other brother who's a commissioner of accounts of Virginia Beach. You have one of his captains who is in the House of Delegates, so we pushed up to Richmond. You have one of his other captains, the chair of the Republican Party of Virginia Beach. You're not going to tell me. And last but not least, you look at those men and women who've worked up in that organization, come up through the ranks. His undersheriff in Virginia Beach is a person who happened to be his partner when he worked narcotics with the Virginia Beach Police Department. He was a sergeant, never rose above the rank of sergeant. But his partner that they worked narcotics with, he brought this person in and made him the undersheriff of Virginia Beach. That's the second most important position on the sheriff's office.
Right.
If something happens to the sheriff, the undersheriff takes over. This is a person who was never a supervisor with the police department, but because he was my opponent's friend, he gives him that position. That's disrespectful to those men and women on the sheriff's office who have put their time in and worked up to ranks to bring someone from the outside who was never even a supervisor. Wow. And when you talk about nepotism, partisan politics, and cronyism, that's a prime example of it.
Well, we know that it exists, and we know that in all levels.
Yeah,
it does. But that's the reason I'm running. I'm running as a career public safety administrator, not a politician. I'm not a politician. I tell people when they say, "Well, you're a politician," I'm not a politician. Never had the desire or luxury to let partisan politics influence how I serve the citizens of Virginia Beach. And that's what I need to bring to the sheriff's office, is to take that partisan politics out of it. We should be about serving the citizens. It should be about public service, not self-service. And right now it's just a hub of partisan politics in that organization. And it shouldn't be. It should be about serving the people.
Absolutely. It really should. And that's why we want to make sure we inform viewers and potential voters about who's running.
It's very important. You need to be informed.
Yeah, you have to be.
Because without people being able to see, that's why when we do this over here, is to give people the full view of who you are, not a 15-minute or 10-minute speech, and you're trying to cramp everything in, and your opponent's spending millions of dollars to paint another picture. That's not making sense to me.
And it's a lot of money. And the money, unfortunately, these days buys elections, and it shouldn't be.
Right.
And if you go to look at where money's coming from, there's a group called VPAP, VPAP.org, Virginia Public Access Project. If you look at that and look at donations that are made to campaigns, even my opponent, you look at the money and where it comes from. I've got a concern that, and again, it gets, with the police department, we stress the importance of avoiding even the appearance of impropriety. But if you look at my opponent, some of the money he gets, I read an article a couple of days ago where there was a gentleman from Birmingham, Alabama, who gave $15,000, and this is public record.
Right, you could go on there.
VPAP.org. There was a gentleman who gave him $15,000 of his personal money, who happens to be the president of a company that was bidding on a contract with the sheriff's office. And after he gave him the $15,000, Byron Williams is his name, and he's in Birmingham, Alabama. He gave $15,000 to the sheriff's office, to his campaign, my opponent's campaign, and after that, his company, NAFCare, was awarded a contract for over $1 million, and after that, they gave more money to his campaign. If it's not, I don't know, if it's not illegal, is it moral and ethical? I say no. And that's just one. There's other companies that have done the same thing, and you shouldn't, and I've promised, I've guaranteed the voters of Virginia Beach in the video I did that if you're bidding on a contract with my sheriff's office, you're not going to be giving me money. I'll take money from citizens or donors want to help out, but if you're going to be bidding on a contract, I'm like, no, that's not proper. The citizens don't want that. They shouldn't want it. They shouldn't expect it.
Right.
So, this campaign finance. So, really, to tell you the truth, it is a kind of hairy thing for you. If you have to run for office, now you have to get funds from the community.
Sure.
And then you become the person in office, and then you got all these people that gave you money. Then now, what do you think should happen? Because it has to be something else. That,
right. I think it's tough, Eunice. I think
it is tough.
People should be giving money because they want to see a change, a change to better. It should be because the quid pro quo, because they expect something. But unfortunately,
that's the way.
Money corrupts a lot of folks. Not to say that my opponent corrupted, but money corrupts a lot of folks. It influences elections. And if citizens want to donate to campaigns, that's great, And I tell people that that's been the hardest part of my running. I've loved getting out and meeting voters, knocking on doors, talking to people on the phones, but having to raise money has been the toughest part of my campaign, and that's the reason we haven't raised as much from my opponent, even though I would love to have people donate to my campaign, which they can do on our website, John Bell for Sheriff. But, I tell people that, I would rather go into a building with someone with a gun than have to get on the phone and ask for money, because for 40 years with the police department, if I went to a 7-Eleven and the clerk said, would you like a free cup of coffee? I kind of cringed because,
you don't want it to be appearance.
Exactly.
The very appearance.
So now I've got to go out here to run a campaign.
Everywhere.
Exactly. And not just the appearance of impropriety.
Right.
And so now I've got to go out and ask for money. So that's been so uncomfortable. And but
so
it has to be done.
I'm wondering what for a position as such as that, because it is a law enforcement position. And I never thought about it until you brought that up. And you have to raise funds to run for office. Now and it's within the community where you're going to be serving.
Right.
So that's a tough.
It is tough, but it takes, you have to have that strong moral courage.
What is an alternative to that? I guess I'm asking you, for the sheriff to be appointed, or
I don't think appointed, because if they're appointed, like the police chief there's that potential for that political influence on the public safety organization. So it should be elected. It should be nonpartisan, and you shouldn't let partisan politics influence the operation of the organization, the sheriff's office. But even if we talk about campaign finance, it's difficult. It's tough. Should there be a certain amount of money that's dedicated to people run? People have talked about that. But it's
or a cap
money.
On it, or
a cap,
right?
Because you look at the money that's raised by a lot of money.
Yes.
And then you look at that. I know there's a gentleman who's running for governor, Gillespie. One of the things he mentioned is that he wanted to push, which I support. I remember watching his commercial saying he wants to introduce legislation to stop politicians from using their campaign funds as personal piggy banks. And I'm like, it shouldn't be. If people give to your campaign, they're giving to your campaign. But right now, you have politicians who take all this money in for their campaign, but when everything's done, what do? They give it to Tom, Dick, and Harry. And is that what the citizens intended for their money to be used for? I don't think so.
They call it a war chest. Is that what they call it?
And that's just what they use it for, is war. So it's sad, but it's sad.
Because you're dealing with community issues, you're dealing with people issues, and then people giving money expecting you to do certain things for certain parts of the community. If certain parts of the community can't give, then are they supposed to be overlooked because, hey, I couldn't, I need services, but I didn't give as much as Joe over here. But I know that you have been supported by Gabby Gifford. And I want you to elaborate on how does that feel? Because she's a strong gun control
and what happened is that she and her husband Mark Kelly are the founders of Americans for Responsible Solutions, which they formed after she was shot in Phoenix. And they started a branch, Virginia Coalition for Common Sense in Virginia.
I did.
Right, Virginia Coalition for Common Sense, and I'm on the advisory board. Another retired captain with the police department who worked for me at the police department. He's an advisory board member. And what they're pushing for is not taking away guns, because I've got several guns. I believe in Second Amendment, but they talk about responsible gun ownership, having universal background checks, having those who are mentally ill, violently mentally ill, not having access to firearms. Domestic abusers, not having violent domestic abuse, not having access to firearms. So they talk about that. So I'm on the advisory board for there, and then Gabby Giffords issued a statement supporting me in my race.
Okay.
We only got a couple of more minutes
Sure.
left. Because time really go
It
by
really
fast when you're having fun.
I'm having a great time.
Where can, if people know the election is coming up on Tuesday?
Tuesday, November 7th, yes.
Okay. What do you want to leave with them as your final words as a part of this?
The importance of coming out to vote, we don't realize how important our vote is, and we take it for granted. President Obama, when he was in Richmond, recently mentioned that in midterm elections, we tend to fall asleep at the switches. We don't come out and vote. I think people need to consider the sacrifices that were made, the lives that were lost to get the right to vote. So we can't take it for granted. We can't take it lightly. We have not just an opportunity, but a duty and obligation to come out and exercise that right to vote. So I'm encouraging everyone to come out and have their voices be heard next Tuesday, November 7th, to make a change in Virginia Beach. We say turning the tide in our campaign, and we have an opportunity to turn the tide if we come out next Tuesday, November 7th, to vote John Bell for sheriff.
Okay. Well, Melovee?
Well, and I want to just say one more thing. I know there's an event coming up at the Westin on the 3rd. And is that a bipartisan event that people are going to come meet the candidates, or just
It's just a few candidates. My understanding is that Pam Northam, Ralph Northam's wife, is going to be there. Kimberly Ann Tucker is going to be there as well, and myself. And it's just about us meeting the community, and again, trying, if people want to support our campaigns financially, to have an opportunity to do that.
Okay.
And until next time, blessings, Melovee.
Well, there's scatter time to wrap it up. The clock on the wall saying that's all we got, y'all. But don't forget, Tuesday, the 7th, take everybody.
Go vote.
If the dog is registered, take him too. Make sure he got on glasses. We don't want no trouble. But nevertheless, putting all jokes aside, this is a serious, serious election. Yeah. We got to get out. Yeah. We got to take first-time people. I got 4 people that's 18 years old is going to be going to the polls on Tuesday, right. First-time voters. And we're going to be talking about it over here on Tuesday. People want to call in and say, hey, I registered to vote. You ain't got to say who you voted for. Just say, I registered to vote. I voted. Yes. That's all we want. We don't want to know who you voted for because that's personal. But nevertheless, we got a good man here that's telling you good things that need to be done, that's not being done. So ain't no sense of sitting home on the sideline. Everybody can be a coach on the sideline. Everybody can be a player on the sideline until you get into the game.
Right.
The bullying is not going to stop until you get in the game. The prison to the pipeline is not going to stop. Our future generation is depending on you to get out to those polls this Tuesday. They open up at 6 a.m. No excuse. Get there early. Or if you can register, I don't know if you still can register by ballot.
Well, you can early vote, I believe, until Friday.
Until Friday?
Yeah,
well, that's
not sure that I apologize.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it is because
we got to get it done, people. We got to get it done. But nevertheless, remember, put God first, and everything else will fall in place. Yes. It doesn't matter what people think about you. It's all in what you think about yourself. Till the next time we meet, till the next time we greet. This has been the best of the 757 Community Talk Show. Hey, you can share this. You can share this, okay? Because it will be up, all right? Until the next time, we out of here.